Hey there guys, and welcome to the next tutorial here on the channel. Today we're going to be making a duct tape iPad case, all made out of duct tape, and we're going to be making it for the 3rd generation iPad, which is out right now. I don't actually own an iPad, so I have to use this template here. This is the exact duplicate of what a iPad would look like, except it's all out of paper, and I have, things marked on where the volume buttons are, the screen is, and the home key and stuff like that. So I'll be using this. If you do have an iPad, then you can certainly use the measurements off of that, and it'll probably be a lot easier. But for this tutorial, I have to use the template here. I'm going to be using 2 different colors of duct tape in this tutorial: the blue surf, which you can see here, which is the more colorful of the two, and just plain white like this. So it's going to be a very flowery themed iPad tutorial, which is probably based for the girls, but I haven't done a tutorial for the girls in a little while, so decided to throw a little bit of that influence into here. So let's get started here on our first step. So our first step, what we're going to do is make the back part of the pouch that the iPad is going to slip into. So what I did here is cut out a whole bunch of strips that are 7 3/4 inches long. Now the width of the iPad, according to the Apple website, is 7.31 inches. So I'm overshooting that a little bit to give a little bit of room on each side so that I can slip into the pouch pretty easily. So I cut out a whole bunch of strips that are 7 3/4 inches. So that's what we're going to be using for this tutorial for the width of it. Now the reason that I have them alternating is because I want the back part of the iPod pouch to be blue surf, and I want the front part to be white. And I'll show you how that's going to turn out when we start making the pouch here. So I'm taking my first 2 strips and stuck them together. These are 7 3/4 inches long, once again. And that is kind of cutting it close, so you want to make sure when you're cutting these out, you want to make them exactly 7 3/4 inches. Or if you want to go to 8, and then you can just trim off any excess tape or anything like that that shows when you cut it off, because you're going to have to cut them exactly 7 3/4 inches, and that might be difficult for some of you to do. So I'm just alternating back and forth on the sheets here, and I'm going to keep doing this until I reach a height of 9 3/4 inches. The height of the iPad is approximately 9.5 inches, so we're overshooting that by about 1/4 of an inch to go to 9 3/4 inches. So what you want to do at this point is to keep sticking these pieces of the tape back and forth until you come up with a sheet that's roughly 9 3/4 inches high, which will be right about to down here. So you want to keep doing that. You don't have to do 2 different colors. I'm just doing that to give a little bit of more color to it, but it definitely will look nicer if you do 2 colors. So keep applying those strips back and forth until you get to 9 3/4 inches high. That'll be our first sheet. So this is what it's going to look like after you're done. I got all white on one side and blue surf on the other side. And once again, this is 9 3/4 inches high. And I'll show you the iPad template here so you guys can get an idea of how much I overshot. I got about 1/4 of an inch on each side, which is perfect. And I have about 1/4 of an inch on the top as well. And now remember, when you put your iPad into this pouch that we're making, it's going to slip all the way to the bottom here to where the 2 pieces are connected. So you have to, you really don't have to go too far on the top, because it's going to sink down a little bit to the very bottom here. And you need to take that into consideration when we're cutting the part for the screen, because it will sink down a little bit. Then that's just due to gravity. So now let's work on the kind of the photo frame that's going to go on the front here. And because we don't need to cut out an entire piece just like this to cut out a giant square out of it from where the screen would be up here. We just need to cut out a photo frame, and I'll show you how to do that next, so we can put this right on top and create our pouch. So you're probably asking yourself, why do I call it the next piece a photo frame? Well, this is exactly why I call it a photo frame, because that's exactly what it looks like. So how you make this is actually very simple. You're just going to cut out several strips that are 7 3/4 inches long for the bottom here. 2 of those, stick them together. Then you're going to cut out 2 strips that are 9 3/4 inches long. This is the same dimensions as this piece before, and you're going to stick those together. And then you're just going to take the strips and do the exact same thing on the other side, and you'll have this photo frame. And basically what this prevents us from doing is making a whole other sheet and then just cutting out a giant piece of it, because you don't need to waste all that tape. So here's how it's going to work. We're going to line this up right on top. And for my template, it's actually going to be easier for those of you who have your iPads. You want to line up the iPad with the bottom here. And if you have your iPad, you're actually going to have to measure in how far the screen is and then make a dot. But since this is paper, it's not actually an electronic, I can make a mark exactly where the screen ends by poking down with my X-Acto knife. So I've got all 4 sides just like this, making sure these 2 sheets are lined up directly on top of each other. That's very important. And so now I have those 4 holes that are punched in there. I obviously need to make this rectangle cut in the center much larger. Now when you are making the marks for this, obviously don't poke through your iPad, but you're going to have to do a little bit of measuring to find out where the screen starts. Don't cut it exactly the dimensions of the screen, because the screen kind of moves around a little bit. If you cut it exactly and you overshot or undershot a little bit, it's going to be a little bit off and your screen won't match exactly your rectangle that you're going to cut out. So cut out a little bit less than that, and then you can always cut out more. It's a lot harder to cut everything and then find out if you cut too much and then try to put it back together again. It's easier to just cut a little less, and then eventually you can cut a little bit more. So now what we're going to do is we're going to find those marks, at least I'm going to find those marks, and I'm going to cut out this rectangle for the screen, and that'll be my next step. So this is what it's going to look like after you do a little bit of trimming and cutting. You're going to have a much bigger picture frame. It's a big difference, isn't it? You don't really need to concern yourself with that. And now all we need to do is connect the sides here and the bottom. So you got one 7 3/4 inch strip for the bottom and two 9 3/4 inch strips for the side. And I'm obviously going to use blue surf because it's blue surf on the border here and blue surf on the back. So now I'm going to connect those two, and then we'll work on the flap that's going to go on top, kind of like a book, and we'll make our full iPad cover. So now I have it connected on the sides and on the bottom, and now I just need to work on the flap that's going to be the cover for it, and then we'll add a few little improvements to our iPad case, and then I'll show you guys how to put a few other things in it, and it'll be fully functional. So let's work on that that piece right here that'll fold over right now. So to make this sheet, we're going to use the exact same measurements that we did before with our bigger piece here. So I cut out a whole bunch of strips that are 7 3/4 inches long once again. And you're just going to repeat your very first step of the tutorial to make a sheet that's 7 3/4 inches wide and 9 3/4 inches high. So I'm going to take a whole bunch of strips. I'm using white again for the cover, just to kind of go with this blue surf and white theme. And I'm going to take several more white strips and stick them together until I have a sheet that's 9 3/4 inches high. So do that step now, and then we'll have our sheet for our iPad case. Alright, so as you can see, here's my sheet that I just made with the same dimensions as before. Used a little blue surf tape to tape it to the back here, just to go with that theme on the back. Rounded the edges a little bit to give it kind of like an iPad feel. And now we have our iPad case, so let's take up my paper iPad here and see how well it fits. It should slide right in. Now that looks really nice. And pushed all the way to the bottom, the screen lines up pretty much perfectly, which is exactly what I want. You can see screen on there, tells me exactly where it is. Now you have one more task in front of you if you want to use this as an iPad holder. You do have to cut the holes for your home key, which is down here. Your headphone jack you probably don't have to worry about because it's already open on the top. A little hole for the camera, on-off switch can be accessed from the top, and you have let's see here, your screen rotation and lock and your volume keys, which are on the sides here, so you're going to have to cut little holes for those. And of course, don't forget about the camera on the back, as well as the charge outlet, which is on the bottom here as well. So you guys are going to have to cut holes for those, but it shouldn't be too difficult. There are a bunch of ways that you can modify your iPad case, which one of these ways is to add a few more pockets to it. I would not recommend putting the pockets on the inside here, just because when you do fold this over, this is the part that touches the screen. And I don't care if you have a screen protector or anything on it, but if you have like pens and other things on here, it's just going to be in contact with the screen. So you don't want to really put those on the inside. Try to put them on the outside. You can put like pen pockets, you can put change holders, coin holders, anything you want on the outside. It would be much better than putting it on the inside where it will contact the screen. One more thing I want to talk about before we sign off here is when you are making this, duct tape has a problem. Basically, the adhesive gets everywhere, and this happens like on wallets when you have like credit cards and stuff like that. They get all gunked up with the adhesive. So I would definitely recommend that when you are making this, try to make it as precise as possible. Don't leave any sticky edges or something like that on the inside here, and that would just prevent your iPad from getting really gunked up. If you do have a screen protector, that's gonna be great. Just because the adhesive does get on screens and it's kind of hard to get off. If you have a screen protector, at least you'll be able to wipe off the adhesive fairly easily if it does get a little gunked up. So that's how to make a really cool duct tape iPad case here for the 3rd generation iPad. Totally out of duct tape. It's pretty cool. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the tutorial. Just wanted to show you this, and hopefully you enjoyed it. I'll catch you guys next time on the channel.